Welcome to the Boozy Bookclub.
Where fantasy worlds and bookish drinks collide.
We're two lifelong best friends
Who stay connected by deep diving into magical realms, unraveling wild theories, and reviewing our latest fantasy and romantasy reads.
Oh, and did we mention we're sipping boozy book-themed cocktails while we do it?
So grab your favorite drink and join the club.
Hello everyone, my name is Hallie.
I'm Natalie, and today we will be talking about everything you need to know going into the upcoming release of The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk by Carissa Broadbent. This book comes out August 5th, 2025, and it is book 4 in the 6-book series, Crowns of Nyaxia.
Alright friends, before we get into it, here is your official spoiler and content warning for today's episode, Boozy Book Club style.
We will be talking all things Crowns of Nyaxia, so if you have not finished the entire series, or you're emotionally attached to not being emotionally wrecked, you might want to hit pause, grab your book, and come back when you're ready to scream with us.
Also, we are drinking, like, actual alcohol, and we will definitely be using R-rated language. There will be swearing, yelling, and likely some arguing, thirsting, and questionable opinions.
So, if you're not into F-bombs with your fantasy or spicy takes on your favorite spicy scenes, this might not be your kind of book club, and that's okay. But if it is, welcome to the chaos. Let's do this.
Today we are both drinking hard ciders, aka foamy sour piss beer from Sandra's. If you know, you know.
So we are going to do a quick recap of the books in this series that have released thus far. Let's set the scene.
Starting with The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, we start with Araya, a human girl who's found in the wreckage of her village in Salinae by none other than Vincent, the terrifying but powerful vampire king of the Hiaj clan. Her whole town's been destroyed in a war between two vampire factions, the Rishan and the Hiaj. And somehow, this deadly vampire decides to take this tiny, fierce human girl as his daughter. He sees something in her, maybe a reflection of himself, and raises her as part of the House of Night.
Growing up, surrounded by vampires, Araya is constantly reminded of how fragile and out of place she is. Vincent teaches her to trust no one, not even him, really, and reinforces that lesson the hard way. When she falls in love with a newly turned vampire as a teenager, it ends in tragedy. The boy loses control and nearly kills her. Vincent forces her to kill him, a brutal punishment that scars her emotionally and sets her on the path of becoming a deadly vampire hunter.
Fast forward 6 years, Araya's 23. She's still human, still deadly, and ready to change her fate. Every 100 years, there's a brutal competition called the Kajari, where contestants fight through a series of deadly trials for the chance to win a wish from the vampire goddess Nyaxia. Araya wants in. Her goal? To gain power that she needs to safely cross into Rishan territory and search for any surviving members of her human family.
She enters the Kajari, and this is where things really kick off.
The trials are no joke. Think Hunger Games meet Supernatural Gladiator Arena. Early on, Araya is nearly killed and reluctantly forms an alliance with two vampires. The clever and light-hearted Misha and the brooding, powerful Rain, a former soldier with a mysterious past. She doesn't trust Rain, like at all. But they keep getting thrown together, and that mistrust starts to turn into something messier.
Each trial tests different skills: strength, strategy, teamwork, and as the pressure ramps up, so does the tension between Araya and Rain. They're training together, fighting together, even hunting rogue vampires together. And yes, that chemistry is very much there.
In the Half Moon trial, Araya's powers finally awaken. Nightfire, a rare, dangerous magic, and it's Rain who helps her survive the chaos that follows. From there, their bond deepens, and by the time that the Crescent trial rolls around, a blood-starved forest nightmare, Araya is feeding him her blood to keep him alive. Vampire venom and mutual attraction, things get steamy.
But of course, secrets are bubbling underneath. During the trials, they discover the ruins of Salinae, Araya's hometown, which Vincent destroyed in a war tactic. Completely destroyed. And as they get closer, Rain finally shares pieces of his past. How he was enslaved after being turned, how the Rishan air mark appeared on his body after the former king's death, something that he tried to erase.
Then comes the final trial. Oriah faces literal gods in a room, or imposter gods. She fights her way through to the final arena and ends up battling the last contestant standing, Ibrahim, Angelica, and finally Rain himself. She defeats Ibrahim. Angelica hesitates in the battle because Rain had made a secret deal with Septimus, the scheming prince of House of Blood, and Oriah finishes Angelica off. And then it's just Rain and Oriah.
They promised they'd fight till the end, and they do. Rain lets her kill him, choosing her victory and her wish over his own life. Oriah is devastated. She wins, but the price is too high. She, instead of using her wish to find her family and gain power, gives it up to bring Rain back to life.
He returns, but everything changes.
Rain reveals the truth. The air mark is still on him, and now that he's back, he wants the throne. He asks Nyaxia for the power of the Rishon king and kills Vincent, the man who raised Oriah. And just when you think it can't get any more intense, an air mark appears on Oriah's body, too. That's right, she's not just an adopted daughter, she is Vincent's biological daughter and the true heir of the House of Night. Suddenly, she is the biggest threat in the room.
To protect her from those who'd kill her, Rain forces her to marry him. Not exactly a love story ending, more like a strategic, emotionally gut-wrenching, vampiric power play. Instead of finding out exactly what happens between Rain and Oriah, we take a little shortcut into the 6 Scorched Roses.
So in the 6 Scorched Roses, we follow Lilith, a young woman who's been dying her whole life from a mysterious illness that no one's been able to cure. She's come to terms with her own fate, but when it comes to the god-cursed sickness spreading through her village, taking the people she loves, she decides to act.
With the gods silent and medicine failing, Lilith turns to the last resort, a vampire named Vale. Vampires are feared and hated, especially in her world, but there are rumors that their blood holds healing power, so she makes a deal. 6 enchanted roses in exchange for 6 vials of his blood. 1 rose, 1 vial, 1 visit at a time.
What begins as a simple transactional exchange becomes more complicated with each visit. Vale is distant and sharp-edged, clearly hiding something, and Lilith, despite her fear, keeps pushing to understand him. As they spend time together, there's a slow build of tension and curiosity between them. Lilith starts to realize Vale isn't quite the monster she expected, and Vale, in turn, seems drawn to her honesty and persistence.
When the town uncovers the time being spent between Lilith and Vale, they take action. Action to stop this, and use Vale as a sacrifice to gain the favor back of Vitorys. Vale and Lilith kill all of the townspeople trying to hurt them, and in the aftermath, things get steamy.
Lilith tells Vale that he needs to leave and go back to Obitres and answer the new king's call to service. But Vale does not want to leave Lilith, and when he goes back to her, she is not alone.
Vitorys is angry that Lilith has found a cure, and it turns out that the god-cursed plague was due to her father who'd begged for a prolonged life for Lilith. Due to this prolonged life, the crops died and the plague spread, and she barters for this plague to end, with the cost of her life.
Vale finds Lilith on the brink of death and asks if she would like to live. Lilith agrees, and Vale turns her into a vampire. There is a heartfelt goodbye between Lilith and her family before they set sail for Obitres.
Then we finally go back to the Ashes and the Stalker's King, where we find out exactly what happens between Oriah and Rain.
So the Ashes and the Stalker's King picks up just a few weeks after the events of the Serpent and the Wings of Night. Rain has just won the Kajari, killed Vincent, the previous king of the House of Night, and taken the throne for himself. But his role is anything but stable. The vampire nobility doesn't trust him, partially because he's a turned vampire rather than born Rishon, and partially because he was once enslaved to the previous king, Nekulai.
Alongside that political tension, we've got Oriah, Vincent's daughter and Rain's lover, grappling with the betrayal. She's still mourning her father even after everything he did, and she's furious that Rain kept the truth from her. She's also not who she thought she was. Turns out, she wasn't just adopted. She's actually Vincent's biological daughter, half human, half vampire, and now carrying the heir mark of the Hyaj clan.
While Rain is trying to consolidate his power, Araya uncovers a planned attack on Miss Rada, one that doesn't quite sit right with her. She secretly reaches out to Vincent's former general, Jasmine, and orchestrates a counterattack behind Rain's back. But her plan backfires, and Rain catches wind of it, and during the resulting chaos, Araya is injured and nearly killed.
When Rain and his advisors find proof that she's truly Vincent's daughter, things shift. Septimus, and his uneasy ally from the House of Blood, reveals that he's looking for the scattered remains of the god of death, Alaris, and he thinks Araya might be the key to finding them. Rain proposes that they work together, betray Septimus, find the god Blood first, and use it to protect the House of Night on their own terms.
Rain and Araya travel to Lahore, Vincent's homeland, in search of some clues. While there, they uncover the brutal truth of Vincent's rise to power, how he slaughtered his own family, but failed to kill one niece, Evelena, who now leads them to a hidden pendant tied to the god's power. Araya retrieves it, but is forced to kill Evelena in the process.
Back in Sivranaj, tensions rise. Rain throws a wedding celebration to unify the nobles with Vale and Lilith, but the whole thing is a setup. One of his advisors, Ceres, has betrayed him and sided with Simon Viserys, Neculai's cousin, who plans to take the throne. Rain is nearly killed in a sunrise execution, but Araya arrives just in time, wielding Vincent's sword and rescuing him.
The two finally reconcile and prepare for their next move. They need to recover the god pendant from the castle, free their allies, and regroup. With Misha back at their side, they manage a daring escape and join forces with Jasmine and the Hyaj rebels to launch a full-scale assault on Sivranaj.
During battle, they discover Simon has been transformed. Septimus has embedded parts of the god's remains into his body, making him truly or nearly unstoppable. Rain and Araya are forced to retreat, badly injured and desperate. They travel to Vartana to meet Araya's aunt, Alaya, who reveals the full truth about Araya's past. Her mother was a powerful seer, Vincent's lover, and was killed when Vincent came to seize Araya and wipe out the region.
With that knowledge and the now complete set of her mother's enchanted jewelry, Araya uncovers a map to the Godblood's final resting place.
While Rain leads the army in a final battle against Simon's forces, Araya enters the hidden temple, relives some of Vincent's darkest memories, and finds the Godblood. But when she returns, Simon has already dealt a fatal blow to Rain.
Instead of using the blood as a weapon, Araya begs the goddess Nyaxia to form the Coriatus Bond, a soul-deep connection that would save Rain's life. Nyaxia refuses. She created the Hyaj and the Rishon to be enemies, and their love would threaten that legacy. Araya then calls on Acacia, her mother's goddess, who agrees to the bond, but warns that Nyaxia may want revenge.
The bond is formed, Rain survives, and with Simon dead, the war finally ends. Septimus flees. The remaining rebels are dealt with, and for the first time, the House of Night, the Hyaj, and the Rishon, and even the humans begin to move toward peace. Rain and Araya are crowned the king and queen. They get Nyaxia's reluctant blessing, and Misha, having finally gotten closure from her own past, leaves to start a new chapter of her life.
And this is where we pick up in the Songbird in the Heart of Stone, which follows Misha, a character we first met in The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This story dives deep into her past, her beliefs, and her struggles with her identity, especially now that she's a vampire, turned against her will by the Shadowborn Prince Malik, whom she eventually killed in the Ashes in the Star-Cursed King.
At the start of the book, Misha is imprisoned by the House of Shadow and sentenced to death for that murder. But just before her execution, she's offered a second chance by Asar, the bastard son of the Shadowborn King. Asar has been given a mission by Nyaxia herself, the vampire goddess, to retrieve powerful relics from the underworld and resurrect her lost lover, the god Alaris. He believes Misha's unique connection to the sun god, Atraxis, makes her the key to succeeding.
Misha joins the mission, hoping to prove that she's still worthy of Alaris' eyes. But there's a catch. Alaris appears to her privately and gives her a secret task. Help Asar resurrect Alaris, then kill him with a divine weapon when he's vulnerable. easy stuff. I will kill a god. It's easy, right?
Totally easy.
Atraxis promises her redemption and even offers to bring her sister back to life if she succeeds. Misha, desperate to regain her god's approval, agrees, despite knowing that she'll have to betray Azar to do it.
The journey into the underworld is brutal. Azar, Misha, and their group, including a resurrected dog, Luce, a backup acolyte named Chandra, and a few allies, one ally, named Elias, travel through 5 sanctums, each tied to a part of Alaris' being. In each one, they face increasingly dangerous trials, from battling wraiths in the sanctum of body to surviving mental torment in the sanctum of psyche. Along the way, Misha sees just how much the underworld is unraveling, its protective wards failing, its hierarchy breaking down, and she begins helping Azar repair it, believing the mission is necessary to keep the chaos at bay.
Azar and Misha slowly grow closer, despite their complicated pasts and Misha's hidden goals. Things take a sharp turn when Azar is marked with an air mark of the House of Shadow, right before he's betrayed and stabbed by Elias, a guard secretly working for Azar's sister, who wants the throne. Misha jumps off a cliff to save Azar, and later learns the betrayal goes even deeper.
In the Sanctum of Secrets, Misha and Azar finally give in to their feelings for each other, which infuriates Atraxis. But this also unlocks a painful memory for Misha. The night she was turned, she accidentally killed her own sister in a blood frenzy.
Eventually, they reach the final sanctum, the Sanctum of Souls. There, Azar reveals that the final relic needed for the resurrection isn't an object, it's him. He carries Alaris' bloodline and must sacrifice himself to bring the god back. Misha is obviously devastated, but completes the ritual. Instead of resurrecting Alaris, she uses her power to bind the god's essence to Azar, making him essentially a god.
Atraxis arrives, expecting Alaris' death and Misha's loyalty. But Misha, realizing he's manipulated her from the start, hoping to gain power from Alaris' death so he could wipe out all vampires, turns on him. She stabs him with a divine weapon, and in response, he unleashes holy fire on them both.
Misha survives the flames, barely, but the gods soon appear and shackle Azar, now a fledgling god himself. They can't kill him, so instead they strike Misha down. She wakes in the underworld, where she is greeted by Vincent, none other than the former Nightborn King, who tells her that their work is not yet done.
But wait. Above, in the mortal realm, Azar remains captive, waiting, planning his revenge on the gods who took Misha from him, and vowing to find her again. Whew, shivers.
Alright, so we are going to switch modes and talk about some of our favorite characters and where they stand as of right now going into this release.
Starting with Misha. Misha is a turned Shadowborn vampire thanks to the former Prince Malik. She used to be, in her human life, a priestess of the Dawn Drinkers. Being a priestess of the Dawn Drinkers means you dedicate your life to the god of sun, Atraxis. We are estimating, based on some quick math between Nat and I, which I wouldn't trust that for the life of me. She's about 70 years old. She's been a vampire for 50 years, traveling on that time with Rain. And we can kind of surmise that she's about 20 years old when she was turned. She is besties with our favorite Nightborn King, Rain Ashraj, who kind of took her in when she was going through the fever of turning, and she begrudgingly became best friends with Araya. Misha was much more patient with Araya than Araya was with her. She left the House of Night to travel and see the world. At least that's what she told Rain and Araya. But she really left so that the House of Shadow would not go after the House of Night and upend their entire newborn rule over the House of Night. She was captured by the House of Shadow and sentenced to execution when Azar stepped in to say that he needed her for his new mission with Nyaxia. Since then, she has fallen completely and utterly in love with Azar. She has a complicated relationship with Atraxus due to her turning, his lack of support in times of need, and expectations of her. He's also he is a grooming, manipulative, power-hungry piece of shit abuser towards Misha. She was killed at the end of Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Shaket after the White Pantheon showed up.
Moving on to Asar, he is the bastard-born son of the the king of the Shadowborn vampires. He is a necromancer, and he also has Alaris' blood in his veins. He was given the role of Warden of Morthrin, aka the Wraith Warden. He was instructed by Nyaxia to raise Alaris from the dead. Asar is cold and cruel to strangers, but at his heart, he is meant to right wrongs. He has a big heart and has a soft spot for his little puppy Luce. He has fallen in love with Misha, as Hallie was saying, and he now holds the power of Alaris after sacrificing himself in the resurrection ritual and Misha stopping it before he could fully die and come back as Alaris at the end of the Songbird and the Heart of Stone. He is also technically the king of the Shadowborn vampires at the moment, and he told Misha to not be afraid of death, to instead make death afraid of her, and that he would find her.
Moving on, we're going to go back down to our Nightborn duology with Rain and Araya. Rain and Araya are currently settling into the roles of the Nightborn king and queen. Rain and Araya share a Coriolis bond between themselves, gifted to them by Acacia at the end of the Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, despite Nyaxia refusing to grant that Coriolis bond herself. Rain was turned as a Rishon about 270 plus years ago. He was turned by the King Neculi, where he fell in love with the Queen of Rishon. He helped orchestrate the downfall of the Rishon and helped orchestrate the rise of the Hiaj power and practically open the door for Vincent. He met Misha about 50 years ago, and Misha convinced him that it was his duty to take back the throne and make a better world for the Rishon and the Hiaj and the humans, and then they joined the Kajari. Whereas Araya is a half-born vampire. Her biological father is Vincent, and her biological mother was a seer of Vincent's. They fell in love years and years ago. They died during the attack on Salinae, and Vincent found her and brought her back to Sivernage, where she was raised to believe she was human, whereas she is not actually human. Rain and Araya share that Coriolis bond and are now ruling as both the heirs to the Rishon and the Hiaj family line. And moving on, we'll talk about honorable mentions.
Yes, so just a couple of things here. Asar and Misha were not successful in raising Alaris from the dead. Atraxus is also now dead. The remaining gods are furious with Asar, but they can't kill him because he now has the power of Alaris. And finally, Vincent was oh so ever conveniently waiting for Misha in the underworld, stating that they still have work to do.
Next, we'll move into the politics of the world between the Nightborn and the Shadowborn duology that we absolutely know of for certain. We will begin with our topic in Obertrace.
So, all of Obertrace is under Nyaxia's domain, and it is the home of the vampires. There are 3 houses in Obertrace: the House of Night, the House of Shadow, and the House of Blood. Each house has different gifts bestowed upon them by the mother, and each house within Obertrace is constantly vying for attention and affection of Nyaxia herself.
For starters, with the House of Night, with the first duology, the House of Night is home to 2 types of vampires, the Hiaj and the Rishon. They have spent several centuries fighting for power between the 2. Where the Hiaj have leathery bat-like wings, the Rishon have feathered wings. And recently, after the most recent Kajari, the Rishon took control over the House of Night over the Hiaj. After internal power struggles within the Rishon and the Bloodborne, Araya and Rain banded together to take back their throne. Rain and Araya share a Coriatus bond and have merged to the Nightborn vampires together with their rule. The House of Night is known specifically for their battle prowess and their winged forms.
Next, we have the House of Shadow. They are known for their wisdom and espionage. The House of Shadow vampires are able to manipulate shadows, minds, and even do necromancy. Within the House of Shadow, there is one line. The previous king of the Shadowborn was Raoul. He had one son named Malik, who was killed by Misha during the power transfer in the House of Night. He had one daughter named Ygritte, and one bastard-born son named Asar. When Malik died, the next heir to the House of Shadow became Asar. Upon Raoul's death, the heir mark transferred directly to Asar. While we don't know much of the events occurring within the House of Shadow, we can infer that Ygritte is currently ruling over the House of Shadow, while Asar is traveling through the descent.
Moving on to the House of Blood, little or very little knowledge is known about the House of Blood. While the House of Blood was once Nyaxia's favorite house, the Bloodborn turned on Nyaxia and she cursed them. The Bloodborn can manipulate blood magic. The Bloodborn curse that was bestowed upon them by Nyaxia when they turned on her will eventually turn the Bloodborn into ravenous animals or demons lost to bloodlust. The House of Blood is currently being ruled, or we can infer that it's currently being ruled by Septimus, who has been tasked with finding a way to either break the Bloodborn curse or gain back Nyaxia's favor. This was prophesied to be completed by one of the sons of the House of Blood royal line. Currently, in the story, little is known about the House of Blood, but it is known that Septimus has disappeared, and it is believed that they have conquered a small land filled with humans. And thus, we will move on to the gods and goddesses of this world.
So, we know of Nyaxia, and as well as 9 of the 12 gods and goddesses of the White Pantheon. So we'll go ahead and get us started with Alaris. He is the god of death. He was killed by the White Pantheon 2,000 years ago due to his marriage to the exiled Nyaxia, who was a lower deity at the time. And he is considered to be deceased.
Moving on to Nyaxia, she is the mother of vampires, created following the death of her husband Alaris. She is a minor deity that was either exiled or walked away from the White Pantheon. Following the death of her husband, she broke free of the White Pantheon completely in a fit of rage. She instructed Asar to make the full descent, gather relics of body, breath, psyche, and secrets, and soul that Alaris has left behind in order to resurrect him. We know, based on what we have seen with the Nightborn and currently half of the Shadowborn duology, that she is a very lonely and very wrathful goddess. She is worshipped only by the vampires. Currently, her domain is over the night, shadow, and blood, and she has, since Alaris' death, inherited death.
So moving on to Atraxis, he is the god of the sun and the leader of the White Pantheon, but he is now dead. Misha did kill him. His followers are referred to as Dawn Drinkers. These Dawn Drinkers are considered human. He does also have chosen acolytes that become his wives. They are married to him around the age 16, is what we're assuming based on Misha's experience. And his followers are not expected to be celibate, but many of them are, especially his wives, as they are his. His followers go on missions to spread the faith. And he gave Misha a special mission to go to Obitres in order to prove her loyalty after she disrespected him by cutting down the sacrificed vampire at the citadel of the Destined Dawn. He also forced Misha to help Asar in raising Alaris so that she could then kill him for good, because otherwise the gods of the White Pantheon would unleash a crazy fucking war on Obitres. And again, Misha killed his ass. We're proud of you, girl. He also gifts the power of the sun, or sun's fire, to some of his acolytes.
Moving on, we'll talk about Acacia. She is the goddess of fate and sorcery according to the Nightborn duology, but according to the glossary, she is the goddess of spellcasting, mystery, and lost things. She has 6 wings that fold behind her, showing fate. And in the aftermath of Misha killing Atraxis, she is described as having her eyes were wide open, as if taking in the rapid changes of fate set in motion by these events. Each of her wings was shrouded in darkness in this scene. She pointed out that Asar cannot be killed because he could be of use for now, that he carries the power of Alaris. She is also the goddess that provided the Coriatus bond between Rain and Araya at the end of the Nightborn duology.
Then we have Sheket, who is the goddess of war and justice. She has 6 golden blades that fan out from her back like steel wings, each representing a different divine gift. She is the goddess who stabbed Misha in the heart after chaining Asar and throwing Misha off to the side in the final moments of the Songbird in the Heart of Stone.
Then we have Vitorus, who we have seen twice now, first in the 6 Scorched Roses, and the second in the Songbird in the Heart of Stone. He is the god of vitality and the plague according to the page, but the glossary defines him as the god of abundance and famine. In the aftermath of Misha killing Atraxis, he came crashing from the heavens in a cloud of rain and light. One arm is covered in green moss, flowers growing from his flesh, while the other is blackened with decay. He plagued Kova.
Then we've got Ix, who, according to what we see on the page, is the goddess of fertility and sex, but according to the glossary, she is also the goddess of childbirth and procreation. She was the most stunning being that Misha had ever seen, wearing a gown wrapped around her body that floated back up into the sky, the red of broken virginity and childbirth pains, and she has copper hair.
Honorable mention, Ix's motherfucking tits. Per Rain Ashraj himself. Moving on to Srana. She is the goddess of machinery and science. She is described as having skin of polished bronze and eyes of ticking clockwork. We see her first in the 6 Scorched Roses when Lilith has put Vale's blood underneath a microscope or in a magnifier. She cannot put his blood under there for too long, otherwise Srana will understand, recognize it, and then break the appliances.
That's a good catch. I didn't even remember that much from 6 Scorched Roses. Next we've got Zarix. He is the god of rain and sea, according to what we see on the page, but he is also the god of weather, storms, and water, according to our glossaries. In the aftermath of Misha killing Atraxis, he, quote, walked upon a bed of storm clouds and waves. And finally, the last god that we know on the page here as of yet in our story is Kashmar. He is the god of art, seduction, beauty, and deceit. And correct me if I'm wrong, Hallie, we only got this from the glossary. I don't think we've truly seen him on the page yet.
Yes, I fully agree. I don't think we have seen him on the page yet. Not saying he's not going
Which
to.
is interesting, because...
But yeah.
Yes, I was going to say, that's interesting, because catch me on Art Watch in the deep dives.
Seriously, the amount of art references.
Deceit is a big one, too.
Yes. And seduction, I would argue.
Yeah, a little less obviously so, but yeah, for sure.
Yes, art and deceit are going to be 2 major themes that Natalie focuses on throughout the deep dive. And I'm so excited to argue with
Art Watch
with
and
her on
Color
it.
Watch and
so many watches.
all of it.
Moving on, we'll talk a high level of the White Pantheon. In the White Pantheon, there are 12 gods. These 12 gods we mostly firmly know. But the White Pantheon is worshipped by all humans, and the gods have certain regions of the human world that potentially favor one god over another, as seen by Lilith. They predominantly focus on Vitorus, and even Misha and her sister Sasha focus primarily on Vitorus, or their town focused on Vitorus versus Atraxis. While there are lesser gods and goddesses in the White Pantheon, as seen by Nyaxia, they are not as predominantly worshipped in this world. Finally, and the most important fact that I will absolutely be talking about every time we talk about the White Pantheon is that they share a communal wealth of power, and if one of them dies, the power gets distributed to someone else within the White Pantheon.
It's almost giving us theory.
Yes, I fully agree. It is giving us theory, but I also think that this is such a clever take on Greek mythology that I genuinely cannot wait to deep dive how Greek mythology impacted this world. Greek, Norse,
Absolutely.
Roman mythology, like, it is so set in stone. Like, the fact that it's in a pantheon, for starters, I cannot wait to see how we interact with the lesser gods, such as Nyaxia.
So, moving on to some of the pronunciations in this world. There are some tricky names, some tricky location names, and power names. So we're just going to go through some of those, starting off with some of our main characters. So we have Araya, Rain, Misha, and Asar.
Moving on to the gods, please bear with me. We have Nyaxia, Alaris, Atraxis, Acacia, Vitterus, Ix, Srana, Zurux, Shaket, and Kashmar.
Then we've got some locations here. We have Obitrace, Sivranaj, Salinae, Adkova, Dahera, Lahore, and Vostis. And Morthrin.
Finally, we have general notes or general names, and we have the Hiaj, the Rishon, the Coriatus Bond, and then the Kajari.
And I think that's a wrap on this episode of the Boozy Book Club. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Whether you're sipping along or just here for the spicy takes and bookish chaos, we are so glad you've joined.
Don't forget to check us out on TikTok and Instagram at Boozy Book Club Pod for behind-the-scenes shenanigans, bonus content, and all the boozy bookish fun between episodes.
If you've liked today's episode, be sure to leave us a rating or review. This helps fellow readers find us, and we seriously appreciate the love.
The next time we see you, we're diving into our initial thoughts and reactions to The Fallen and The Kiss of Dusk, which releases on August 5th. This episode will come out the week of August 11th, so mark your calendars and pour yourself something strong.
Until then, keep your book spicy and your cocktail strong. Cheers, babes.
Bye.
Before we just drink all these drinks.
Vampire venom.
Vampire?
Vampiric.
You got it. Oh my god. Villith?
Battling wraiths. Wraiths. Why can't I say that? Wraiths. I'm gonna finish my drink.
Good call. Because, like, this isn't a full-blown series episode, or... Can you tell I'm feeling the alcohol? I have the hiccups. Hold on.
Absolutely not. You are not allowed to have the hiccups.
I feel like we should take a drink every time Ix's fucking tits is said. We're in trouble. I've just been playing with this the whole time. This has been my little fidget. Where some of our fairy? Not fairy.
Fairy godmother.
Alright. Right. The alcohol is hitting, y'all.